Hey everyone, welcome. Hi Yuri, hi James.
Hey,
Yeah, how you doing?
good, good. How are
Oh,
you?
yeah, I'm fine. Super good. It's been a great week. Hi Yuri.
Hi everybody. How is everyone? I hope you all are having a great week, and I'm really excited to be talking here today.
Awesome. Nice to meet you too. Let me bring up standing mirror. I'm gonna just share the space now so we get more folks in here. So probably in about 4 more minutes we kickstart fully. Hi Axel, welcome in here. Hello standing mirror, how you doing? Nice to have you here.
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
Awesome. Yeah, we'll be starting up quick pretty soon. I just made an announcement. So we get folks in here and see. We are down to so Trisha's mentioned she would be a little bit late, but she will join. So we could go ahead and start off without her. Let's see, Jay. I don't know, Jay's okay, Dillion. So we have Sergey is at the conference. He's not going to join. Nathaniel have a clash with a meeting. It's not good. It probably do join, but probably later. So we don't know. Yeah. So we'll be starting pretty soon. Hi Graham, nice to see you here. And I will deploy. Nice to have you here too. So yeah, let's give it a little bit more time. I would let's see if I let me. Okay, I think I just did announce the space. Okay, cool. So we're starting in 1 minute, and the way these spaces normally go, we have like maybe 30 to 45 minutes of just questions and discussions from the speakers, and then it's going to be like a Q&A session from the audience afterwards. So the entire topic is what you do as a devrel, and I want everyone to keep it like real. Like I am pretty much interested in your unique journey to devreling, if I could use the verb. Yeah, so it's just gonna be unscripted, just you, just talking about what you do, right? Welcome, Hamad. So we could go ahead to get started. It's recorded, so folks can listen in later on. So yeah, what any of if any of the speakers joining, I will definitely bring them up. So we're gonna go through a round of introduction pretty soon. So yes, welcome everyone. This is what do you do as a DevRel space where we have a lot of interesting DevRels in here or dev advocates here. If you don't know what DevRel is or what dev advocacy is, this is the space to be as we'll talk about DevRel in general. So let's have speakers introduction. Yuri, do you want to go first?
Yeah, sure. Hi everybody. I'm Judy. I'm a DevRel for Funaster. It's a telephony company that helps communication easier between companies and their users. I actually am a self-taught developer. I started learning when the pandemic hit, so that's when I successfully transitioned into tech. And I'm really excited to be here. I'm also a technical writer and content creator. I'm currently working on YouTube videos and TikToks to make learning really easy. And I think that's about me.
Awesome. Yeah, I like the TikTok parts. We'll talk about that probably later on. Stunning Mirror, you want to go ahead?
Yeah, sure. My name is Stanimira. I'm based out of Sofia, Bulgaria, and I work at MongoDB. I've been in tech for like, I don't know, 5, 6 years now. Previously, I was working at Progress, and I was a DevRel for NativeScript, which is a mobile framework. Some of you might have heard about it. But yeah, nowadays I'm at MongoDB and I am a developer for the MongoDB database and also Atlas, which is our data developer platform. And it's nice to be here with you all today. That's my first. Twitter space, so it's cool to check out how this platform works.
Awesome. Thank you, Stanimir. Yeah, and finally, James.
Hey everyone. I'm James. I've been in the tech industry for over a decade. I think I'm closing in on 13 years now. Originally, I was just like a software engineer. I transitioned into devrel about 3 years ago. I work for a company called Clerk, who offers user authentication and user management. Uh, and yeah, I'm excited to be here. Love to talk about how everyone got here and what we do every day.
Awesome. James was hinting at the next line of question, but before that, I want to do this. So, each of the speakers, can you give us a fun fact about yourself, starting from you? Just a fun fact, something not tech, just something random that you want to share.
Sure. I actually can make amazing, amazing, amazing flanks. Even though I'm not like I don't like sweets that much, but I can make them incredibly good for some reason. So I'm basically the person in charge of making sweets around my house.
Awesome. I do like sweets. Stand me, please, your turn.
Yeah, sure. Well, I don't know. Maybe it's fun that I own three guitars and I can't play the guitar. I just keep buying them, and I try to convince myself that I will learn how to play a guitar one day, but I still can't.
Wow. Yeah, you definitely get that down soon enough.
Sure, sure. One day I will spend enough time and
Yeah,
learn how to play it.
yeah, definitely. I'll be asking you about that one later on. James, your turn.
Yeah, I don't think I really have any fun facts, but I own an RV, so I get to travel around America in an RV with my wife and our two dogs when I'm not at my desk making content.
Cool. Amazing. So yeah, my little bit intro as the host. I'm Kelvin. I am a JavaScript engineer and DevRel as Trouble. I I do full stack JavaScript. I love teaching JavaScript. Everything JavaScript. I just love it. So yeah. So let's get on with it. And my first line of question, like I said, James hinted on it, but how did you get started in DevRel? What led you to do DevRel? We're going to start with you.
It was actually like a way of like the universe manifesting itself, because I was looking for a job as a software engineer, and I spent like a full year trying to get into a role and like trying to post content, applying, interviewing, and stuff like that. And at some point, I started like creating a lot of content and being like really around social media and stuff. And that's actually how my current boss found me, and he really enjoyed what I was putting out there, the way I communicated with the community, and because ultimately that's the thing that you're gonna be doing. You're gonna be communicating the concerns of the community to your company, and that's like a happy accident, I will say. I remember it was like a Sunday that he DM'd me. He was like, "Hey, I have this opportunity. Would you like to have a chat tomorrow?" And it was Monday the other day, and I was like, "Yeah, sure." I'm unemployed. Let's do it. And it's just like I fell in love with the product, and the community is amazing, and that's currently what I'm doing. So it was like a really happy accident, and it's also my first role in tech, so it's like I've been loving it every second.
Nice. So DevRel was your first role in tech, and the first company you work with, you're still with right now, correct?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, that's amazing. Awesome. Um, so let's hear from Stanimir. How did you get started with DevRel?
Yeah, sure. So I was actually a software engineer or a developer for the native script framework, and I I guess I was at that point for working on it for a couple of years, and we had that conference that was called the Native Script Developer Day. So a tech conference that is focused specifically on the product that we were building. We had a conference in New York, and they asked the engineering team to submit proposals for talks or to submit CFP, if you will. And a couple of people from the engineering team submitted talks, and we all went and spoke at that conference. And I got to interact more with the community that that were the people who are actually using our product, and I became more interested in how we can help them. I started communicating more and more with them, started more writing articles, then going to different events to talk about native script and also our integration with Angular, and one thing led to the other, and I transferred from engineering to devrel, and then I had a couple of other um, jobs at different tech companies as a software engineer again, and then I came back to devrel here at MongoDB. But yeah, definitely, it's a very very interesting kind of technology track or a job track to go into um, if you're more interested in how people are actually using your product, but you still want to maintain that sort of engineering mindset, or if you still want to be writing some code.
Nice. Thank you for sharing, Stanimir. James?
Sure.
Yeah, so I got into DevRel a bit different than probably most people. So I ran, or I still run, a YouTube channel, and I was a manager at a large fintech company called Plaid. I was the manager there, or one of the managers there, should I say, and I was doing YouTube on the side. I did a YouTube for a CMS company who happened to be sort of in early startup pre-seed. They saw my video and they reached out and asked if I was interested in doing DevRel instead of doing management. So I made the transition to DevRel from my manager position because I wanted to do more content and helping people and educating people on how to use specific products with certain frameworks or whatever. So it's just a general transition from like being a YouTuber and still being a YouTuber into doing it sort of full time while still being able to do my own stuff.
Cool. So yeah, I think I've seen those sort of transition where you like making content, and DevRel is not all about making content, right? But most of it is trying to like teach developers. So what really stood out for you since you've been doing DevRel all for a while, or speakers? Like, what is the most important lesson you've learned about DevRel so far? We'll go with you first.
I really like that clarification that you said that being a devrel is not just creating content, because it's true. Um, there is all different types of devrels out there. And in my case, I'm working for a startup that involves doing a little bit of everything. So the thing that really I was like, huh, this is interesting, was when um I I started as a developer, right? That was like my main goal. So I kind of knew things that were gonna work or not. And I got a book. I forgot the Caroline. She has a really good DevRel book, and it explained how developers hate the idea of being like a customer. Like they hate that you're trying to sell your product down their throat. And that's something that I was like, yeah, I was aware of that, but that's like, when you put it like that, that makes me like wonder ways and things that you can present your product out there, and always like trying to keep their interest in mind, like in the front seat, and also staying true to like the company goals. And that's something that you should always have like in the back of your mind. So it's about like finding that sweet spot between like making content, putting stuff out there, interacting with the community, and making it feel like a, I don't want to say like safe space, but that's kind of like the best term that I can come up with right now. like a safe place for the developers to be like, hey, I like this product, so I'm gonna get involved with the community. So it was like trying to find like that sweet spot for me that I was like, how this is interesting, but how, and it's something that it happens every day. Every time I try to put up content out, or like I'm working on the documentation or talking with the engineers, it's something that it's always like in the back of your mind.
Yeah, thank you so much, Joey. We have a lot to say on the topic of dev not just being about content or the dev advocacy. We'll get onto that. It's really very, very interesting to talk on. So, Stanimir,
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. She touched upon a very, very important topic here, and we were actually discussing this in our team last year. We were reading this book called "Developer Marketing Doesn't Exist." If you haven't heard about it, you can look it up. But it's definitely true that developers don't really like to be approached by product teams or by general marketing people, because they think that these sort of people don't have the technical background or the technical knowledge to actually explain what they're selling, which sometimes it's true, and definitely marketing people have a different set of skills as compared to developers. So I think in this sense, DevRel actually fills in a very important um, gap or a niche in the whole industry, which is actually explaining to customers, which also happen to be developers, how the product works, how it's positioned into this space, and how it can help them to achieve their particular goals. And I mean, yeah, content and creating different sorts of content will always be a primary goal of DevRel, but I think the most important part of our job is actually being in touch with people who use the product and understanding where they what their pains are, and how you can communicate that feedback back to your engineering team and your product team. So kind of serving as a bridge between your customers who are also developers and your engineering team who are developers themselves.
yeah, cool. Thank you, Stanimir. James?
Yeah, I think I'll take a different route here. So, like for me, DevRel, like one of the things that I think you learn, depending on the size of the company. For example, if you've got a smaller company, maybe it's in startup or something like that. DevRels end up becoming almost the face of the company, um, where people associate you with the product, right? So I think a great example of that is like Lee Robb, who is developer experience for Next.js. When you ask who would you reach out to at Next.js, the first person that most people think of is Lee, and that's the same at Clerk. There's always somebody personally reaching out to ask questions or want to get more information, versus going through all the other channels. If they know that you're that person, they may tweet directly at you or reach out to you directly. That was one of the biggest things I think I learned about DevRel is that like you end up becoming the face that people associate with the product or with the company or with that piece of technology.
Nice. I think I know what you mean by, because of course you are interfacing between like a product that your company, which is a developer focused company, is offering, and the users, which are developers. So you're just in between, trying to, okay, hear from them and also teach them how to use the product. But from my perspective, the devil I see, it's mostly the teach part. I don't know, like when we started out, we said that developer advocacy is not just all about content, right? But we see more of the content. So, what do you think is the balance where you listen to the developers And while you're listening to developers, what is the output? Like, what is the end goal for listening to this developer? Like, what do you do with those feedback? Yuri?
That's such a nice formulated question because the ultimate goal is developer success. You want them to be able to use your product, to enjoy the experience, and to want to be formed or be part of the community, right? So that's ultimately what all their efforts are about. You see the content creation, you see that most of them are how to use the tool and educating developers on how to salukle, on how to use and be able to successfully make a project or reach their goals because that's practically what you're there for. So I would say like that's the ultimate like on the peak of the mountain goal, developer success.
Yep, got it. Developer success. 100%, I do agree. Stanimir?
Yeah, I definitely agree that that's the ultimate goal, like customers or developers happy with the product we're trying to pitch to them. I don't know. At my company, we have actually different teams within DevRel, one for community, one for advocacy, and in advocacy, I guess we're more about outreach or trying to broadcast the message that we've got. And the community team actually speaks a lot more with customers, answers their questions, and trying to broadcast their message or their feedback back to our internal teams. So yeah, I think it's definitely important to hear what people have to say and not just try to shuffle some message to them or trying to broadcast some messaging that we've got from the product that we're trying to sell.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, what you just said is really, really deep because it's it's back to the whole communication problem again, right? Where we rather just tell and talk and tell and tell than really listen to the developers. Like, yes, my tools can do all this stuff, but what do you really need, right? That empathy, I believe, is at the core of DevRel. And we might sometimes just forget to say, hey, yes, my shiny awesome thing, use it. This is all it do. But I want to tell you what I want to use it for, right? Like my own needs. So you have to listen. So it's very, very important, I think. James, please go ahead.
Yeah, I think it's right. The overall goal is customer success, but on a slightly smaller level, it is product success. Your product can't be successful unless you take that feedback back from users or developers or whatever it may be, and how they're using your product and how maybe a change is affecting them, or a lack of X is affecting how they're having to build on the product, um, which then shapes a lot of things, right? Like documentation or the next release or how engineering may need to make changes. Um, Overall, it all boils down to customer success, but there's a lot of like smaller goals in there. And overall, it's customer success, which leads to product success, which leads to growth, which leads to, more customers, more product, more everything. Um, it's a very fluid kind of goal, but overall, we're all just here for people to be successful, whether it's the product or the people using it.
Yeah, definitely spot on. So we have Trisha in here. So we're a little bit far gone, but I could backtrack a little bit. Hi Trisha.
Uh, okay. I hope it's unmuted because I'm having a lot of trouble with my Twitter today. Hi everyone. Hi Yuri, James, Stanimira. Yes. Oh, I hope I pronounced the name correctly. I hope everyone is doing well, and I'm happy I finally made it. But I
Yeah,
feel like it's going to cut off because like my phone is literally giving me problems today. So hopefully I do stay long on this space.
yeah, sure. Nice to have you, no matter how short or long the time is. It's a pleasure. So do you want to introduce yourself pretty quickly?
Okay, so hi everyone. I am Trisha Cat, self-taught based South African front-end developer. And before, I was a developer advocate intern at Strappy, which is the leading open source headless CMS. And yeah, man, we're about to talk about DevRel, which is my favorite topic, and I hope I will add value to today's conversation. Thanks.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Tricia, for joining. So yes, um, we were just talking about what stands out for you in DevRel. Like, what is the core of DevRel? Like, you feel from doing DevRel all this while. Like, what do you feel is the core of DevRel? What's the essence of DevRel?
Okay, so it's in the name itself. Developer relations. Relations is all about forming relationships with communities, with companies, with anyone you meet, really. And to form relationships with people, you have to be empathetic. I hope that's the word. So you need to like find common ground and then try to help that person to succeed in using the product that you are representing. So I'll make an example with Strapi. Strapi solves a lot of problems such as creating an API from scratch. For someone who is a front-end developer, they don't want to spend a lot of times learning a new language, Node, Express, to build the APIs from scratch, but instead Strapi solves that problem for them by just going onto the dashboard and you quickly have your API in less than 5 minutes. And so it's really important to be able to form relationships with people and introduce them to tools that's going to help them achieve the goals that they want to achieve more efficiently, easier, and perhaps faster. So, yeah, it's all about relationships, I would say, being able to communicate with people, bringing them together, and helping them to grow while using the product that you are representing.
Thank you, Tricia. That was amazing. So, my next line of question is this, because of course I did mention before that this is all about what you do individually as DevRel. So I'm gonna let's take like a case study. In a day, what does a typical DevRel day look like in your company? Like everything you do, as much as you can share in a day, so we get an idea of like, okay, if you said you're doing DevRel for that day, what does it actually entail for you specifically? We start with you.
I will say I'm working at a startup, like I mentioned, so it varies from day to day. But when I joined, I started working on the documentation right away to make it more accessible for developers and also updating it. I spent like 2 months doing that. Then I started working on like content creation. Then I also helped move our Slack community to our Discord community. That is, thank God, it's thriving. I was really scared because it was like a really risky move because we already had like an established Slack community, but it felt like the right move, and I'm really glad that it's giving good results. And currently, like this week, I started with community support. This basically means the questions, the thoughts, the experiences developers have. Most of the time, they DM me on my personal account, which is fine, or they express it through Discord, GitHub issues, stuff like that. I try to make like a report. I respond to the ones that I can. The other ones I refer them to the engineering team, and then they explain things out so that next time I can handle it. And it's um, it's really fun, if I'm honest, because not a single day is like the other. I also created some articles on how to use Fonester with Dialogflow. Those are more on the tutorial side. I also started a YouTube series on conversational interaction design, and it's we also have like daily meetings, daily stand-ups where we keep each other accountable. We are like, hey, this is what we did. I felt stuck doing this. Can somebody help me out and stuff like that? That it's really some people I've seen like daily stand-ups can be like really draining, but most of the time they're like 15 minutes and we're all just catching up with whatever the other person did. So it's like, yeah, personally I think it's fun, and it has made like the company culture a little bit stronger because you see each other every day. So it's like, oh, okay, and it's all about, I will say, the, all playing around with content and the code of the company. That's all I do.
Yeah. Thank you so much. That was really detailed. So, Stanimira, please go ahead.
Yeah, I definitely agree that the job is very different from one day to the other. In my company, we're writing content, creating YouTube videos, speaking at events, or I don't know, creating quiet streams. It's very different from one day to the other. In general, it's different. Depends on how you plan your sprints or how you plan your quarter, and um, it's more of what you do one week to the other. And yeah, it can be very different.
You sure? Thank you, Stanimira. James?
Yeah, my role is probably a bit different than a few people. Although I am a devrel, I'm also a leader, so I have like a daily stand up async with my one IC right now, who just tells me what they've been up to, what they've seen, um, where we can improve something. And then on top of that, I'm also currently in a project of rewriting our docs in a different system with clearer examples, with better TypeScript flow. And then day to day stuff, I do things like creating content, reaching out to other content makers to see if anyone's interested in working with us, blog posts, reviewing stuff, reaching out to people in our Discord, writing our weekly community newsletter that goes out to tell everybody what's changed since last week, and then if anyone in the community has built anything. And then I build complex templates that we can use. For example, we just built one that's Clerk with T3 Turbo, which is TRPC with Next.js and Expo and Clerk. So I build some more complex things to help people get started as quick as possible.
Nice. Yeah, so finally, Trisha, please go ahead, Trisha.
Okay. So my day to day, it was like, okay, so I spent a lot of time on Discord, not actually responding to people's queries about, what they had about Strapi, but I was there to actually monitor what kind of issues people are facing, the most common questions that people are asking in our Discord community. So I was one of those persons who tracked down everything to see what was happening, what kind of questions do people struggle with, and the kind of content that we should push out from our company blogs. And so that was one. And number two, I was the person who was responsible for checking out our Strapi starters to make sure that the starters are up to date and that they are working perfectly. And so once we saw that our starters are not actually up to date, I had to plan out how we're going to upgrade each of the starters to using current versions of the frameworks that they were built upon on. So we saw that our starters were actually like Next.js 11. And so I was responsible for planning out how we were going to build the next starter using Next.js 13. And that was the second one. The third thing was I was responsible for hosting spaces. So I had to plan out which people I'm going to be inviting. During the marketing meeting as well, we would discuss what kind of topics we would like to have on Twitter spaces, people we would like to invite on our spaces, and all that stuff. And I was the one who had to document it down and to also approach people to speak for us at our spaces and also design the Figma files and everything for the promotional cards and stuff. And then the fourth one is we used to, well, not we used to, but bi-weekly we would have the DevRel CFPs and conferences meetings. So that is mostly focused on the kind of events that are available for us to apply on as the DevRel team. So, my siblings are making a noise. I apologize for that. Narasa! Hey, oh, sorry. Okay, so yes, we were CFPs. So we had meetings for CFPs to discuss which conferences we need to look out for, which CFPs. Like we would set a time to actually write down our CFPs to submit together and to review each other's CFPs and all that stuff. And what else? What else? I feel like oh yes, I used to also review articles. So we have the Right for the Community program. So the community writes articles for Strappy, and I was the person who was reading, reviewing, researching, doing everything to make sure that these articles were up to date, were um, filled with correct, up to date information, and yeah, tech reviewer, producing content, hosting spaces, submitting CFPs, and video tutorials as well to create a few snippets on how to do minor things with Strappy for every new release, for every Strappy version release. And I think that's about it. Yeah.
Wow, that was really detailed, Trisha. Thank you so much for sharing. I loved every bit of it. So for me, as DevRel at Trouble, I sort of have the best of both worlds because I love to code, and if so at Trouble, I get to manage and lead our SDK. So the way Trouble works is we give you like a middleware where you attach to your APIs and it gets to send like your request to Trouble, so you get like a cool dashboard and all that. So the SDK for JavaScript, I'm the one who built them. They're all open source, which is also a win for me because I get to work in open source, which I also love. And it's amazing because the JavaScript ecosystem is wild. So maybe for like PHP, you just have to build something like a Laravel SDK or just a PHP generic one. But we have a ton of frameworks we have to support. We have an SDK for Strappy, which I just wrapped up doing the one that supports version 4 of Strappy, and a bunch of other stuff. I was really just on it before this space. So it's more code for me. And I also do a lot of tweeting. I handle our Twitter. So everything you see there is all me. And YouTube, I came up with this idea called framework challenge, frameworkless API challenge, where we built APIs without a framework. We've been able to do just two of those. I really want to do more, so we did Alexa and just PHP. Yeah, and also the docs, my very first task, because when I joined Trouble, we were launching 2.0 and we didn't have a developer docs, so I had to do all that within the short time for the launch. It was a journey, but it was cool. I used Astro, which I'm in love with up till now. And what else? Yeah, I also do customer support because I feel it's at that point where, aside from making content, sometimes the developers have specific needs which they have to like ping you for, or our Discord, and you have to like just answer them. So I also do that, and also our other channels for support. What else? I sit in customer sales meeting because I feel I need to know the pain points of these customers, why they would need trouble. And just sitting in those meetings, I get to like see the big picture because we're selling to like CTOs and all these engineering leaders. So the bunch of all those questions, I take them into account in my docs and everything. So we could position the technology in the light they would understand. So it's really all that. What else do I do? Yeah, I do some Twitter spaces as well, like Trisha, and yes, a ton of stuff. Like I'm just all over the place because it's a startup, so I wear different hats. It's been fun. So we have Francesco in here. Hi, Francesco. Just want to acknowledge that, and also Graham. Graham, I've we have Graham here. Do you want to say hello?
Yes, thank you. If I may, I have a question, but obviously, if you've got prepared questions, feel free to tell me to shut up.
Yeah, sure. We were gonna do questions later on, but instead of me just asking all the questions, please go ahead, Graham. We could also have questions in here.
Thank you. So I asked this question on Francesco's literally just done a live stream with Kelsey Hightower. I want to see the opinion of the amazing people on stage on this one as well, which is, what do you consider to be a good North Star metric, like your main metric as a DevRel? It's such a hard thing to measure a lot of the times. So what do you pick as the one thing that you're like, that's the, if I do well at that metric, I have done my job well? Does anybody have a North Star metric, or have they ever given any considerations? So that's the question. I know it's a toughie.
Yeah, awesome question. Anyone want to try and go ahead first? Anyone at all? Okay, Yuri, please go ahead.
Hi, Graham. Hi, Francesco. So nice having you both on stage. Francesco is like the king of the Everells, so this this is truly an honor. But I will say like the metric, or at least the ones that we focus most on Fonoster, is the amount of projects and the amount of activity we get. We actually, our engineer is amazing. He's a rock star, so he actually found a way to link all of our metrics together and see which one is giving us like the best amount of like projects, interactions, at what time, and stuff like that. So that's a new tool. It has been like this past week we launched it internally, and we've been working on that, and that has been giving us like really good results, and it's gonna be like a really interesting couple of months using that. And I will say, before that, before we had this, we will focus more on the community engagement on GitHub and how many people were using actually our tool and coming at us like with questions and stuff like that and interacting with the product. But now we have like a more also like the growth of our accounts. And but now we have like a more specific tool that is gonna give us like more specific results, so that's fun. But I will say like metrics, it's definitely the hardest part of being a devrel, and that's something you gotta check every single week to see what's working and what is not working for the community, so you can fix it and make the best product available for the community.
Thank you, Yuri. James, please go ahead.
Thanks. Yeah, so North Stars are a hard metric for anybody. It doesn't matter what part of the company you're in. For me specifically at the moment, North Star is just the continuous bringing the attention of Clerk to developers. I feel like the metric itself is kind of hard because when you work for a startup or someone that's seeded or just maybe just pre-seed, which is where I sit currently, um, the North Star for us is to make sure that people know that Clerk is the best in user management and authentication and can be used in a variety of different ways. So I always use two things, which is one, did we go up and to the right last week? Which is, did more people sign up for an account? Did more people, at least at minimum, try the application locally? Um, if so, that means that two things have happened. People know about the product, and people have attempted to use the product. And then the second one is, did those users retain? Which means the week afterwards, did we retain more than we did the week before? Those two markers are usually my key markers, but there are also some other stuff I use too, which is just like quick North Star wins, which is, did we manage to reduce friction somewhere? I think DevRels often lose that metric, which is like, could we reduce friction somewhere? So that could be like, hey, we've had 3 complaints about this one piece of documentation. Let's go ahead and get somebody to fix it, whether it's DevRel or you have a docs writer or you have engineering writes docs, whoever it might be, fixes that one piece of friction. That to me is a big win and can be seen as a really big North Star.
Thank you, James. So for me, this space, I want it to be focused to your company as much as possible. So the North Star for me at Trouble is because we are an API company, right? So the time to first request has to be as small as possible. So the time when you sign up and you integrate Trouble with your with our SDK, I want that time to be as small as possible. That means it's not confusing and the overload is minimal. So that is the metric I personally track. Of course, there are others because a broader vision for Trouble is to educate folks on how to really write great REST APIs and educating the community. So when it comes to all that, because we do see we have some visualization as to the APIs that are being authored by the customers, and we know the quality because we give like a trouble score. So moving that trouble score to something great is also a nostalgia for. That means we're doing a good job by teaching these developers how to write great APIs. So that's why we do our tweets, our blog articles, and all that stuff. So yes, the time to first request, very first nostalgia, and also how better the APIs are on Treble. So we have Trisha. Trisha, please go ahead.
Okay, so to answer the question about the matrix, so with Strapi, it's a young company, I would say, and the DevRel team is also just being established, and so we don't really have that strong foundation of what we would like to measure and how we're going to measure it. But I would say that how we measured our goals were mostly focused on the community. So maybe the goal, I would say, maybe we sign 20 users. At least we must have 20 users per week who sign up and create a Strapi account or something like that. And so that's how we measured how many people actually signed up for Strapi and how they used it, and who came back and actually finished the product and deployed it and all that stuff. So we set a number that 20 users per week and that kind of stuff. And also with the community, we used this tool. I think it's Orbit, if I'm not mistaken. It's Orbit something. So that tool, it helps us to see who are the most which community members contribute the most to our Strapi repos, forums, Twitter. So it tracks everything, every section, should I say, like, I don't know, like social presence that Strapi has. So it tracks Discord, GitHub, Twitter, and everything else. And so we would see which community member is most active where, and which space or um, part of Strapi is like losing interest. So most of the time we would focus on GitHub because that's where a lot of people would contribute to. And so if we'd see the numbers on GitHub falling down, then we would quickly make a plan to assess what the problem was, what was going on, and all that stuff. And so that's how we measured the community on that side. And also we measured the matrix on how many people visit our blog site. So it is important for us to see which blog sites people visit and why. And we assess also if that's the kind of content that the community is looking for. And so, yeah, but in all honesty, I don't think we had um, that one matrix that would measure everything for everyone, because even with us, we had different roles. One was more focused on community, which was me. The other one was focused on public speaking, appearing on conferences and meetups and all that stuff. And the other one was focused more on documentation and coding. And so the three of us were doing three different things, and we had not come up with a plan of uh, measuring our success in that way. But yeah, I just wanted to say that I don't feel so sure about what I said, to be honest.
Trisha, you were amazing, please. Okay. So we have new speakers on the floor. We have Francesco and Queen Arit. So, Francesco, do you want to introduce yourself, then perhaps talk about your North Star, the question Graham asked?
Yeah, sure. I'm Francesco, developer advocate at DailyDev, and I'm currently experiencing a power outage here. So yes, but yes. So North Star, we used KPI for a while, and we still use them. But sorry for giving always the same answer. It depends. For example, in the previous company, we were trying to measure how many paid customers I could bring to the previous company. So that was the metric that made sense for the previous company. And the redev is free, so this would not be a great metric to have. So we have sort of a, let's say, company goal, which is like having the most possible active monthly active users. And currently, I'm not using a sort of like KPI for what I'm doing. It's so it is not like a number that it's directly related to what I do. I got a raise 1 month ago, no, 2 months ago now, no, 1 month ago, and we talked about different metrics. So it's more like it's not easy. I'm sorry, Graham, but it's not easy to give a specific answer, and for sure there is not one fit for all. But like, I don't know, tripled the number of the followers on Twitter, tripled the number of subscribers on YouTube. So there are some numbers that all together they say, okay, so maybe this guy didn't just stay on Twitter making Twitter spaces, but he also published something. So this is from my personal experience, I would say. Probably if the company has paid customers, paid customers is probably like how many paid customers you can bring. It's a good metric in that case, but it doesn't apply for all the companies. I see a lot of good faces here, and also Graham. Hi.
Okay, thank you, Francesco. Yeah, like it's go back to the cliche. It depends, and that's why I say we just pick from our current companies because it's so broad and it's so nuanced, and every company have their agendas and what they want in terms of growth. So yeah, so Queen, could you please introduce yourself and maybe talk about your North Star?
Yes, I want to recognize the host, KOO. Thank you for hosting this space. In spite of how shitty Twitter has been for many of us today, I'm actually quite happy that your space seems to be holding up because that has not been the case with other people. And as we know, Elmo Tusk is in charge. Ever since they took charge, everything has gone to shit. Okay. All right. Now that that is over. Hello, everyone. I am Ari Developer. I am a developer advocate at PayPal. And this is my first developer advocate role. Prior to this role, I've just been a regular software engineer. And I know one of my one of my concerns before I took this role was whether my coding ability would suffer because I wasn't coding every day. And I think in some ways, I think it was a valid concern. And thankfully, I have several friends in the DevRel space who are also engineers. And they were able to they were able to assure me that the role was worthwhile, right? Typically, at least, as a Black woman in tech, I'm also a little older. I always had concerns about not being as close as possible to the core functioning of a tech company. And one of the ways to achieve that closeness is by, being in the more technical roles, okay, engineering, DevOps, and that sort of thing. And so that was really where I was coming from was, am I, uh, you know, unknowingly torpedoing my career by not being as close to the bare metal, so to speak. And so, talking with my dev advocate friends, I was able to see the really vital function that dev advocates play, particularly in the current industry, right? And so, just in summary, what I do. So, the dev advocate team at PayPal is relatively new. We've been around, it's going to be 2 years in April, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. And so we are just starting out. PayPal is a ubiquitous name just in payment processors, right? Been around for decades, but in many ways has experienced some challenges and some growing pains in certain areas, and that's part of what at least my team is tasked with solving, right? Is improving our relationship with developers, improving the ease at which our services are consumed, right? Um, and utilized by developers specifically, right? PayPal has, typically served merchants, and we have like a variety of clients, right? And but my team have been tasked with, growing our relationship with the developer community specifically, right? And so really what we're focused on right now, it's like part of the excitement of my current job is there really hasn't been any like it's a blank slate almost, right? So in many ways it's like we're creating the system and we're creating the processes that hopefully are going to endure and be successful, and we'll grow the team and all of that. So that's like the exciting part of my job currently. And so our major sort of priorities now are to build systems within PayPal that can enable developer advocates to do their best work. Because when you're building a team out or like a whole function, you can't just go out into the open and be like, hey, here we are, right? You need to start at home. And so that's really what we're doing. We're, instituting, whether it's like publishing, like publishing systems or content creation. Like it's a lot of like home-based housekeeping and sort of building the infrastructure, right, around which we can now actually, build the team. So it's exciting. It's like I said, it's uncharted territory. So it's really challenging me in terms of my planning ability, in terms of foresight. I'm a big systems person, so I get to flex those muscles. And then my tech stack is not like the tech stack I'm most comfortable with is not represented in PayPal at all. And so I actually am doing a whole lot of coding, which is surprising. I'm doing a whole lot of coding, just, in like getting my skills up to like basically getting to the point where I can comfortably use, I can comfortably sort of, operate in PayPal's tech stack. Yes. And so that's like a nice bonus. In terms of North Star, I mean, personally, for me as a dev advocate, I I thrive on empowering people. Like it's my mission in life, it's my calling, it's my purpose is empowering people. So as a dev advocate, I want to make PayPal services easier to use and incorporate for developers. Like that's really it. Now, in terms of like KPIs or metrics, not there yet. Not there yet. One thing I've realized about dev, I'm going to end with this. One thing I've realized about devrel is it's highly specific to the company and the industry, right? Like there isn't like a one size fits all approach with devrel. Like I've realized that, and I think when I realized that, it kind of freed me because I stopped like experiencing imposter syndrome, from people like Graham, who's like this kick-ass devrel, professional, and just like just how do I handle, being in Graham's shadow in terms of devrel. And I think I just kept, my other friends, seeing what they're doing and accomplishing. And at the beginning, I felt like, oh, I'm not doing all these things. I'm not accomplishing. But I realized that I was literally comparing apples to oranges. And so I had to sort of like block all that out. I mean, be happy for them, but block that out and, turn my gaze back to the company I'm working for, our unique challenges, our unique roadmap, and really reorient my mind to that specific, that specific environment. And I think when I did that, I was able to start producing and, start being productive, in terms of our goals. So I'm definitely learning a lot. I'm definitely like ready to sit and absorb wisdom and knowledge from devrel people who have been there for a minute, like. But so far so good. I'm enjoying the role. And I am coding, so that makes me happy because that was my number one concern, was how often do I get to code in this new role. but I am coding quite a bit, which makes me very happy as well. So thank you for having me.
Thank you so much, Prinari. That was so detailed. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, we have 40 folks in here. That's amazing. Thank you for joining. So I want to go to another round of questions. And since we're a lot of speakers, so if anyone want to take, you just use the raise hand emoji. So the question is this: how much sway should DevRel have on a product? And is does DevRel have that amount of sway you feel in your company currently? So the question is, how much should they have, and is that happening for you, James?
Yeah, this is again the classic "it depends" answer, but at my so the DevRel team should have a relative amount of sway because DevRel represents the user. They are essentially, if 1,000 developers got in a room, that's how you should be thinking. So the way to at my company is at least is that I spend a lot of time entrenched in both how the product's being built, where the product is going, and the future of the product. Um, I spend a lot of time talking to the CEO, the CTO. I spend a lot of time talking to engineering managers. So it really does depend on one, the size of the company, two, how many of you there are, because there may be some, different ways of handling that. But I feel like as a DevRel, you should be at least have some opinions on how the product should be built, or if a release is going out and you're like, this is going to really, really affect a whole bunch of people. We really need to rethink this strategy before they do it, because that's happened in the past where something's gone out and you know DevRel wasn't involved and they end up with a bunch of support questions or a bunch of tweets or whatever because this has broken the product because they're not using it in a way that people may expect. But I'll leave it there.
Thank you so much, James. Quinarit, please go ahead.
Yes, James really hit the nail on the head. I think because DevRel professionals are they're right there with the community, right? I know we're saying it depends a lot. It really does. It depends on your product, right? It depends on um, it depends on your product. I think if your products are the sort of products that developers are using, developers like if it's meeting a need in the developer industry, right? The developer community, then you absolutely want your DevRel people to be involved in everything. They need to be involved in product. They need to be involved in design. They need to be because they are out there with the developers. And the thing with DevRel people is in many ways we are people, right? Like we're people. That is we have personalities that are that get along and I think for the most part, I don't want to generalize, but I don't think you can be like an effective DevRel and like hate talking with people or hate listening to people's complaints or hate listening to people's feedback. Like that's part of the job, right? It's not necessarily always instructing or teaching, although that's an important part. But it's also that feedback, getting the reports, getting the stories of the pain points, right? So in many ways, like being a DevRel is like being a double agent. That's how I see it, right? You're serving your company, but you're also serving the developer community. And so you're a double agent, and information flows through you both ways, both from the company out and from the users back in. And so I think any company that really wants to prioritize developers and make sure that their products and documentation are relevant to developers. They really want to incorporate their DevRel teams in every aspect, of the development lifecycle, of planning, of ideation. Like you want to lean into devrel, because the thing with being devrel is because we are in the community, we are trusted, right? Like, as opposed to maybe someone from corporate, someone from, VP level, C level, you know what I mean? Like the DevRel, like we're one of them. We're one of the developers. You know what I mean? Like we identify with that community. And so there's a level of trust there, right? The last thing I'll also say, and it's related to what I said about DevRel people being double agents. I think one of the ways to empower your DevRel people is not seek for them to be talking heads for the company, right? Because again, they're double agents, right? And so, because I've heard questions about, I work as DevRel, but I also have a brand. How much energy, how much time should I devote to one or the other? One thing I know is that it's not necessary that you have a brand, but if your brand allows you to be more trustworthy and recognizable in the developer community, that can definitely support your career. It can support your role as a DevRel. And I think it's very useful for companies to understand that you can't treat DevRel people as like any other employee in your company, like have them be like so hyper focused on company, company, company. Like, for example, I attend Twitter spaces like these, and when I joined my company, I made it very clear that this is what I'm going to be doing, because it's a part of the process, getting around developers, getting to know what developers are talking about, what is important to them, what are their pain points, what are their desires, like I need to be like marinating in that atmosphere regularly so that I can better inform what we're doing in the company. And thankfully my company understood that. They understood that, you're not going to be a talking head. You're not going to be just a cookie cutter talking head for the company, because your role actually requires the opposite, so yeah, I'm going to leave it there. Thank you.
Thank you. I love the bit about double agents. That's, I love spy movies a lot, so that one resonates with me a whole lot. Yeah, that was spot on analogy, because you have to play both sides. You don't have to be biased. No one has to lean much more than the other for you, because your company needs to achieve their goals, of course. That's why you're employed, right? But the developers need to be happy. They need to get the quality they should have, so you can't compromise on it. I think I think that just be the hardest job ever. That's from where I'm standing. So yeah, so I'm going to open up the floor to folks to start asking the questions. But before that, quick round of questions. What would be your advice to anyone that want to get into Devo in terms of skill set and just how to get the job? Because I know this is a very interesting job, because a lot of people ask me, how do I get into DevRel and all that? And for me, it was just the next step for me, because I wanted to teach developers, because I've always been teaching developers without a title. So I just wanted to do that officially. So what is it for you? Whoa, we have all the hands up. Okay. How do we do this? Eeny, meeny, miny, more. Yuri, please go first.
Uh, I just want to say, James, you can go ahead, but I know what everybody's gonna say, and I hate to say it, but it depends. So
No.
James, go. You go first, because
Okay.
your hand was up, and then Francesca, Trisha, and then if you guys
Okay.
leave anything for me, then I'm next.
Okay. There. Thank you
Yeah,
for.
I can go next because like I feel like my phone is about to give up on me. So my advice is um start doing it, Stop being a developer advocate for yourself. Start going to conferences, practice your public speaking, create content for people, create content for yourself. Turn your documentation, turn your coding journey, your maybe you're documenting something you learned today, turn it into a blog, teach people about what you know, what you're doing. So start content creation, have a blog, go onto Twitter Spaces, Teacher spaces are also a form of public speaking, so that's also great. And also create your own community, manage your own community on Discord. Um, have someone to help you out with community management or something. But the point is, start doing developer relations. Uh, start doing developer relations for yourself. You don't have to be hired, to start all those things. But if you can start them for yourself and you're already getting used to doing that, then getting a job, it won't be that difficult because people will see that you are doing the job already. It's just a matter of having that title of saying developer advocate at what company. And so start doing it, be your own developer advocate, and also learn to be flexible. It's all about the day is not going to be the same, your schedule is not going to be the same. That is the fun thing about working as a developer advocate, is that your day can depend literally on anything that you're working on because people are unpredictable. And so, yeah, man, enjoy it and have a great night, everyone. Good night. YK, why do you hop on when I'm about to leave? Why? But anyway,
Thank
bye,
you.
everyone. My internet is like, it's not
Yeah,
agreeing.
you are amazing, Tricia. Thank you so much. Great
Thanks.
advice. James, please go ahead.
Yeah, I think like people think that to get into DevRel you have to be this superstar with thousands of followers or a big YouTube presence or be known in the industry or whatever. There's a bunch of lists of like what people think. But in today's world, you can be a dev advocate without being in that role today by joining in on things like open source software, um, being parts of Discord communities where you're helping people, things like that will allow you to sort of already do that role from the beginning. And then once you have some knowledge of like how that works and how to interact with people and the issues that people run up against, you'll find quickly that one, if the actual role is for you, because you may be idolizing being a YouTuber more than you're being a DevRel, which are two very very different things. And it allows you to understand how to do that, and then getting the role. There's no real skill sets for it. I don't think there is like you have to be good at X, Y, and Z to be a DevRel because you can be many different types of like the promoters, there's the content creators, there's the builders, there's a bunch of different kind of DevRels out there. So if you're gonna think about doing DevRel, speak to more DevRels. Ask about what you do every day, because we're only a small subset. Those things will allow you to decide one, if you want to do it, and then two, it's just about pursuing it like any other role in tech. Just start by being an advocate for open source software somewhere.
Yeah, thank you, James. Super duper great advice. Francesco, please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. I came prepared because I released a video exactly about this question 2 days ago. And so there are basically four main factors if you want to become a DevRel. The first one is, of course, the developer experience, so the experience that you have as a developer. And many think that you must be a developer before becoming a developer advocate, and it could make sense because there is developer in the name of the description of the job. The truth is that this is not mandatory 100%. For many activities, you if you have an idea of what you will do from a technical perspective, it's better. But there are some activities like community building, organizing events, even some inspirational talks that maybe you don't even have to be a developer. It really depends on the role of the rel that you will have. But that's another question. So developer experience, if you have experience, of course, in that sector, because if you are talking about front-end experience, DevOps, backend, so there are also different experience that you might have as a developer. Then there is the social media aspect. I think the social media aspect is very important because many companies, they are looking for a devrel / social media manager. So they want someone who can also handle their social media accounts. The funny part is that handling a social media for a company is a totally different thing than handling a personal social media. But of course, if you have 500,000 followers on Twitter, and if the company hires you, probably they'll ask you a couple of tips on how to grow their Twitter account. Maybe you can help them there. So having a social media presence can help. It's not mandatory. There is not something that at some point you achieve that now you are available to become a devrel, and before it was gray and it was not available. So no, absolutely not. And then content creation. This is how I think I stepped into devrel. So creating Docker content, I became developer advocate for a company related to containers and AWS. So content creation, I think it's the way to go, because it is where you really showcase what you like to build, what you like to create, articles, threads. Just choose the format that you really like. Classical example, I made YouTube interviews with people, and one of the people I interviewed, it was the CEO of Daily Dev. Today I made my 95th interview, so making that can really help for sure. Also tips and articles, whatever you want. And the last one, as I said, is community building. So build a community, or I think even better, join a community, become a staff member, a community manager. I think when you really start to connect with developers or people in general. So these are, I think, the main factors. So basically, you just had my video in a Twitter space format. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Francesco. Amazing advice. Yuri, do you want to say something on it?
Yes, I just wanted to quickly add, on top of everything that has been said, it depends on the type of DevRel the company is looking for, because some DevRel positions focus more on the engineering side, other focus more on the community side, other focus more on the marketing side of things. So it absolutely depends on the company you're applying or looking to apply for, and being prepared and taking the necessary steps to be able to fulfill the requirements. Because like my job right now, it's because I started creating content and putting it out there, so that's like the main thing that I do now. So I'm pretty sure that if you're approached by a company, they're gonna ask of you the same thing you've been doing. So if you prove yourself to be a good engineer, proactive learner, that you can manage a community, that you've done community events, that you're in touch with the developer community, that obviously gives you extra points.
Thank you so much, Yuri. And we have YK in the house. Please, YK,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Yes, thanks for having me up here, KOO. I'm not sure how to say your name. I feel like almost everything I was gonna say was taken by everyone here, so thank everyone for that. One quick thing I can add is, kind of similar to what Yuri was saying. There are different kinds of work you can do as a DevRel. Some DevRel will focus more on the writing side. Some will focus on, maybe Twitter, or on a particular format, like say YouTube. So start wherever you are, whatever you think is the right fit for you. It could even be TikTok, if you're into like short form videos and stuff like that. So definitely start teaching and on a technology that you're passionate about. And then a lot of people say they didn't plan to do DevRel as their job. They kind of discovered it through their blog or through their YouTube channel. I'm one of those people. I started really DevRel work on my own, and that's what I did, just my own business. And then I worked as a developer advocate, kind of formally at a startup for about a year. So that's how I got started. But I think there are different ways to get started. And one quick thing I wanted to add is, how I think it's really interesting how Yuri got into DevRel, because she was saying she wasn't even looking for a DevRel job. She was like looking for more of an engineer job. But it turned out, what she was doing with Twitter Spaces, helping other people and supporting other people, hyping everyone up, that was a perfect thing this particular company was looking for. So I think I'm not sure why you're dropped hearing that, but I think that Yuri's case is an interesting case study to learn from too.
Thank you so much, YK. Yeah, so for me, I think I've been devrailing longer than I've had the title because I've started from just writing articles, teaching developers. If I learn something or I solve a problem, I write about it. It was Vue, Knox, whatever. And when I found a framework called Sales, which at the time it was said to be dead, and I loved it so much. There was no community, so I started building out a community. I started to do code for it. I was writing, making open source packages. Like I was just the self proclaimed developer for the framework at the point. So I held two conferences for the framework single handedly. And just that was what I was doing before I even got my first job as a developer, and now the second one. So for me, in terms of skill, if you like to share, like you solve a problem and you want anybody else that would encounter that problem, potentially you want to help them solve those problems, it's a great skill. So sharing Twitter articles, YouTube videos, or whatever, it's just going to be beneficial if you want to get into DevRel. And of course, listening, knowing how to communicate, like to help people solve the problem. Again, have to listen for their pain points, and have to take back those feedbacks like we were talking about to your engineering team, and that back and forth is also very important. So yeah, we are winding down, and I don't think we have any questions. So does anyone else have a question? I know, Graham, but my spaces are usually very short, an hour 30 minutes, but I can't do the long spaces. It's just me. I got to get back to coding. So if there's no other questions from anyone, I really enjoyed this space. It's recorded. I'm going to put it up on Spotify as a podcast, so it will be long living. So yeah, thank you, Francesco. Thank you, Queen Ari. Thank you, Graham. Thank you, Yuri. Thank you, James, and the other speakers, Tricia and everyone. YK. Thank you all so much for sharing. So, does anyone want to say any final words before we go? Okay. Francesco, please go ahead.
Yeah, sure. First of all, thank you so much for inviting me, and I think that we shared good tips, and I think that exactly what we're doing now is the REL. We are talking about developers, even how you can get started, sharing our different uh, perspectives, our different stories, and this is exactly, I think, the core of sharing the DevRel experience. And yes, so thank you so much again. I'll literally talk about DevRel all day long. I think we have also a Twitter space with Kshaya on Saturday, I think. So thank you so much for inviting me, and thank you so much, everyone, for sharing your point of view. And yes, looking forward for the next Twitter space. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much, Francesco. Graham, please go ahead.
I just want to say quickly, first of all, KOO, please tell us what to call you instead of KOO because it's just not working. We need to know this. But I just want to say thank you so much for the space. I hope there's more on this subject in the future. Thank you to all the amazing speakers for answering my questions so beautifully and eloquently. To everyone in the audience, if you've had any value out of the people up on stage, make sure to click on their beautiful faces. And if you like what they're saying, give them a follow. And while you're at it, give the people around you a follow too if you like what they're saying. Let's all do some networking. At the end of the day, that's what we're all here for. KIO, amazing space. Please DM me what to call you because I'm not calling you that anymore. It's an amazing screen name, but I prefer first names.
Yeah, of course. The first name is Calvin. You could go with that. Okay. Thank you so much, Graham. Yuri, please go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you so much for having me. It's been great meeting you and speaking with you for the first time. Also, James, so nice speaking with you. And Stanimira, that is not with us anymore, but she was incredible too. And thank you for giving me this opportunity and being able to learn from these amazing speakers and question some of the knowledge they already had and expanding it in a way. So thank you, Queen, for being here. I love you. Francesco, Graham, thank you. And to everybody listening, if you want to get into devrel, the way that I did it was creating content, and this way networking with people, putting yourself out there. Do not be afraid. It's totally fun. It's totally fine. So thank you so much, and I'll probably see you in the next one.
Yeah, thank you so much, Yuri. You all have been amazing. So, like Graham said, look at their faces, go to their bio, give them a follow if you like them. And yeah, thank you, everyone. Thank you, Queen Arit, James, Yuri, Francesco, Graham. You all have a lovely day or night or afternoon, whatever the time is where you are. Bye, everybody.